Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the full moon in Aries. Very exciting. There is a lot happening in the sky at the moment. And hopefully today, I'll be able to give you a rundown of how to emotionally connect with the experiences that are taking place within your life, how to be able to orientate and then form a healthy relationship to the potential that this full moon is carrying with us. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll come away with something that is helping you process what is going on in the sky at the moment. So two things are very real at the moment regarding these planetary systems. One of them is a tremendous amount of pressure for a new growth cycle or new pattern to emerge into your life. And then there is also the part of you that feels and senses the uncertainty of the direction that may go in, what this means for you, and also probably on a more collective level, what is it that will come of the old patterns that we've been experiencing for such a long period of time. So I'm going to be a lot more clearer in what I mean by this, but those are the two main sort of principles or forms or patterns that are very strong and very alive in the cosmos at the moment. One is the pressure to grow, and the other is the uncertainty of what happens when I move in this new direction. And then also the reflection of the past and understanding what that means. So there's a few announcements that I want to quickly make before I jump into deeper analysis. Firstly, I really want to encourage all of you that can to come to my Saturn in Pisces lecture that I'm going to be doing next week. This is on the 7th of October. I will post a link in the description to sign up for this specific lecture. It is being hosted by the Evolutionary Astrology School. So the original school of evolutionary astrology from Jeffrey Wolf Green has put together this fantastic conference. It's all online. You've got some really kick-ass evolutionary astrologers that are going to be presenting some amazing topics. And I would love to have many of you come along and participate and watch me talk about Saturn in Pisces. With the biggest thing that I'm going to be doing in this lecture is I'm going to be helping you be able to locate where the Saturn is in your chart and how you can process this Saturn in Pisces transit for yourself. So that's going to be a big chunk of what my aim is going to be. So hopefully by the time you walk away from that lecture, you'll be able to look at your chart, you'll be able to understand the conditioning patterns, and then hopefully by that be able to say, okay, this is what I need to work on or process through over the next 2 years with Saturn being in Pisces. So that's my aim. It would be amazing to see you support that, as well as also be able to have me give you what I consider to be a very, very powerful orientation to looking at Saturn in Pisces. So I'm going to leave that link in the description down below, okay? Now, two things, as you know, I work with people, souls, you, who are looking to take your astrology practice and enhance it. And what I mean by that is everybody's self-studying, but then there's a whole entire arena of your astrological practice that comes into the real world, and that transition can be very difficult. So I have got a few spaces on my mentorship program at the moment. There is a link down beneath, and you just need to fill out a form. I'd like to talk to you, so you can schedule a free 15-minute call with me, and I'll see where you're at, and if there's an opportunity to help you transition from, hey, I'm just doing some self-study, to I would really like to have impact with my astrology, and I need some help with some feedback, I need some help with guidance, and probably most important thing, how to be able to structure and take your knowledge and put it into a form so that you can essentially read charts with confidence. That's the key there. So I'm going to leave a link in the description as well for those of you that are really interested in taking a serious approach to your astrology. Okay, cool with that. Okay, so I've got my notes over here. let's see what we can process at the moment. So what's coming up for us is Mars and Pluto square. Mars and Pluto are coming into a square at the moment. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with EA principles, when Mars and Pluto come into a square with each other, you can pretty much be guaranteed that we're going to be doing some deep emotional growth and emotional work. So that's one aspect of this full moon that I'm telling you right now, that over the next week, it's going to be a tremendous amount of emotional transformation taking place. So, you know, if we get ready for that and you position yourself towards understanding what's going to happen in your life, this can be an incredibly potent transit to work with. So that's one thing that I want to bring out. Venus is at 22 degrees of Leo, and it is actually squaring, right, Uranus in Taurus. So Venus is currently squaring Uranus in Taurus. It has been for some time, but now it's formed an exact square with this full moon. And what's interesting is that Venus is coming back to the same place that it was when it turned retrograde on the 22nd of July. So essentially what I'm saying to you here is that Venus has moved through Leo, and then it's retrograded all the way back, and then it's now arrived back to the same place that it was when it was turning retrograde, right? It turned retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo. So what that means is we're coming back to the same patterning that we were in the sort of mid part of 2023. But the difference is that we've had this retrograde experience. So we're bringing new perspective to old situations so that we can experience the emotional growth that is taking place with Mars and Pluto square. So it is actually fascinating to be able to observe the complexity of these planetary systems, but the simplicity at the same time. There's like this paradox that sits between, wow, look at how succinct these systems are, and to observe the nature of complexity that is present at the same time. It really just, to me, it's one of the reasons why I'm so consistently excited when it comes to astrology, because there's this, I don't know, I mean, you've probably experienced this multiple times. You know what I'm talking about, when you just are fascinated by how things are orchestrated and work in a way that reveals an unfolding of the cosmic play that we're experiencing right now. So I'm going to talk on that as well. As we know, the moon is in Aries, and it's making, it's going to be going over Chiron and the North Node as well. So that's very significant. What else? There was Neptune opposed Mercury, which is Neptune opposed Mercury. Yes, I was thinking about Saturn and Pisces, but it's really past that. Neptune Mercury opposition is powerful because it's the thin little line, the thin little energetic pattern in the grand scheme. Like there's these outer planets like Mars and Pluto and Uranus, etc., that are all having big cycles and big changes. But this little patterning between Mercury and Neptune in the chart tells you a tremendous amount of information. It gives you so much understanding about what the Venus is about, as well as the Mars-Pluto square. So I want to be diving into that with you as well. It's this oscillation between clarity and confusion, right? Clarity and confusion as well. So past patterns that you are confronting, and then you're responding to these past patterns with new relationship ideas, new relationship patterns, and this consistent heading, like the head off between the past and where you are presently right now is what I see this full moon in Aries in terms of its potential. So let me go to the chart and I'll show you how this is being broken down as well, okay? All right, so the first thing that stands out for me in this chart over here is the inconjuncts that are happening, okay? So here we have Neptune, and it's inconjuncting the South Node. That is what an inconjunct looks like, or otherwise known as a quincunx. And there is that aspect, okay? the way that an inconjunct or a quincunx plays out within our lives is simply all you do is you take your hand and you put it over your eye like this and walk around your house and notice how you can't actually physically see the objects in your house, but you immediately access a intuitive or a memory sense that allows you to navigate, but it's very abstract, right? You can't actually, your brain doesn't interpret it as the things that are there. It just knows it in some sense. So when you're doing this, which is really funny, by the way, this is what an inconjunct does. It tells us we can't see something. And so we then have to access a different dimension of perception to be able to then interpret or make sense of that reality. Does that make sense? So when you see an inconjunct between these two systems here, you can basically say that this South Node pattern and this Neptune pattern, they don't even know that they exist. But when you're going through your day or through your week and you're having to try to make sense of events that are happening for you, you don't actually see how these two things are interconnected. Okay? So there's some blindness that is present in the chart, right? There's another inconjunct between Chiron and Mercury, right? There's the Mercury pattern, there's the Chiron pattern, there's the opposition I was talking about earlier between Mercury and Neptune, okay? So immediately Mercury is telling us, hey, I'm actually here all alone. I need to integrate something with Neptune, and I don't know that this Chiron is here. And yet the interesting fact, or the interesting piece to understand about inconjuncts, is that we do need to be able to integrate both of these patterns in order for there to be the two energies need to come into play with each other and see how they're working there presently, but we don't know, but they need to be present so you can create integration. All right. So, and I'll show you what that means with this opposition here. You can see there's trines that are happening there. So I just want to bring attention to these inconjuncts. So there's the inconjunct with Mercury. Neptune is having the inconjunct with there. And the South Node is also inconjuncting Uranus. So you can see here, both these outer planets are forming this blind spot to the South Node. Again, I'll synthesize this for us. So all I'm wanting to do is just show you how I'm building this thing together, yeah? Okay, what other inconjuncts are existing there? I think those were the ones that were present. As you can see, there's also some squares that are taking place. There's a square with Uranus and Jupiter and Venus. Remember, Venus is coming to that point of integration again, right? It's retrograded all the way back and then it's come all the way back here again. You can see the squares that are taking place. And you can see the trines that are being held there as well, right? That's a trine aspect. It means something is flowing for us. So we can kind of look at Venus and look at the Chiron North Node and say, these two patterns are working in harmony with each other. That's what that means. Okay, and then of course there's patterning here. We've got Pluto square at the moment. I mean, again, when you're looking at it from an EA perspective, this is where it's all happening, right? This Pluto square is really where the deepest emotional and psychological change is going to be happening in your life. So we've got the Pluto square, we've got the inconjuncts, we've got lots of trines, and we've got an opposition, right? This is what I wrote down over here. So let's go ahead and try to synthesize this all together. Remember, I said that this is a chart of extreme potential growth and the stress that is here available to actually get that growth going. And then there is the patterning of the uncertainty, like, oh, should I do this? Well, I feel like I need to grow in this area, but nobody's kind of telling me that this is okay. And so there's that uncertainty, right? Should I do this? So these are the two patterns that are present. So I'm going to start off by looking at the South Node, and I want to show you something. In evolutionary astrology, we look at planetary rulers. So we've got the Moon in Aries, Chiron in Aries, Mars, and the North Node in Aries, right? The planet that is associated with the Aries energy is Mars. So we can immediately see here that this energy that sits here, this is where the uncertainty is. Okay, there's the Aries energy. Something new wants to burst forward. Something new wants to be experienced. Something new wants to be followed through with, right? So something new is in your life, right? Can you feel that? Just for a moment. What is the stress and the pressure that is asking you to grow into this new pattern? What is that? What is currently about to change within your life? And you can feel it in the peripherals of your awareness. What is ready to change? What is ready to shift? And where can you show up for that? So that's the first piece of wisdom that the planetary systems are providing with us over here. Okay, so is that in this pressure for something new to emerge within your life, just show up for each moment. You don't need to think about all of the things that need to go on because it's not possible, right? They're in the peripheral. That's what the Inconjuncts are saying. It's like there are some things that you don't see that are causing you the anxiety, and you can't do anything about it because things have not arrived in divine timing, right? They haven't arrived in the moment that they need to. It's like playing Tetris and trying to put this block in this area here, but you need to kind of fill something in first before you create the line. So there's a series of sequences that are coming into alignment. And right now that uncertainty is trying to experience coming into alignment when you are not deciding when that alignment comes in. But you know that there's alignment coming in, right? So the stress is, I know there's alignment coming in. The uncertainty is, I'm wanting to have that alignment right now versus let it come into divine timing. Okay? So this Mars energy that sits, that's the ruler of this planetary system, it's on the South Node. And the South Node and Mars are coming into a completion phase. So what we have here, and I bet you, if you reflect on your life over the last sort of week, you will notice that there has been a series of patterns in your life that have reflected this feels like deja vu. I'm sure I've been here before, or I can see how this pattern is re-emerging into my life. And it can range from 10 years ago to 4 years ago to something as deep within you, as in, let's say a scenario or a situation presents itself. Usually you would respond to it from a pattern within you, okay? Whereas now you're like, oh, here's that situation again, but I don't want to respond to it that same way anymore. I want to free myself from that and come into a new way of responding to it. And that is what this new moon or this full moon in Aries is about. It's the relationship to the same situation, but you're looking at it from a different point of view, Venus retrograde, and now you're interacting with it and you're saying, this is how I want to do this. And the pressure to grow, the pressure to change, that pressure is there to help you go, I want to do it this way. And the moment that you reorientate and you allow yourself to emotionally connect with a pattern within your life or a circumstance or situation in your life from a new way, that Mars-Pluto will come along and say, done, help you with this. So this is an incredibly potent time to be able to look at the things that you want to change within your life, recognize that there is a part of you that wants to actually respond differently, and say, yes, I will do this. Okay? And that is where the uncertainty will come. It's like, well, how do I know this is correct? No, just show up for it. Okay? And the wisdom comes in here because if you do something on a consistent basis, after a period of time, you form a new habit. You start to develop a deeper ingrained pattern. So we're on the surface right now of new change. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to keep responding to the same situation, but with the new patterning, and just do the same, and just do the same, and just do the same, and do the same, until eventually it deepens into your way of being, and then it will become autonomous. Yeah? So what you need to do is you need to reflect back on what is currently about to change within your life, or what is asking you to change within your life. And how can you respond to that situation from a place within you that only you know, that says, I don't want to do it this way anymore, I want to do it that way. That's the South Node conjunct Mars, right? Older circumstances, a new ability to respond to that. And it's fresh, so what you want to do when you're responding to it is just showing up. Don't do some strategy or something, just show up for it. Just be like, here I am. I'm ready for this new experience. I'm ready for this new way of orientating. That is the key. So a new orientation, and present yourself and anchor yourself into that. So that's where the Pluto-Mars square is present here. So you can see Mars and Pluto, there's the square that's taking place, and it's on the South Node. So this is what is called a crisis in consciousness square. And what that simply means is that between Mars and Pluto, they're having a conversation. They're saying, what do you want to grow out of? That's the question. What do you want to grow out of? And then you need to ask yourself the question, what is it that I want to grow out of? What patterning do I want to grow out of? This Venus squaring Uranus-Jupiter is saying to you that reflect back on how this pattern was formed, address that patterning. So if, for instance, it's a trauma response, or if it's a patterning where you've needed to cope with things, or this is how you needed to do it in the past, but it no longer works for you anymore, ask yourself, how is this patterning preserving my energy? That's how you address this. So you reflect back on the question, how is this patterning working for me now? It worked for me a long time ago because I needed it, but now it's no longer working for me. This is the potential of this full moon. The ability to emerge out of a pattern that no longer works for you anymore, and to give you that space to grow into something new. Yeah? So that's the challenge. That's the square between Venus and Uranus and Jupiter. Venus is moving away from the square, so it's an opening square, whereas Mars-Pluto is a individuating square. Venus is a coming into square. So what are you coming into, and what are you breaking away from? Yeah? And if you notice, the South Node ruler is Venus. Venus is the planet that is associated with Libra. Mars is the planet that's associated with Aries. And so there you have it. What am I growing out of, and what am I growing into? The pressure to grow into something, that's the, yes, this is me, I'm ready to take that on. And then also simultaneously to let go of something. Yeah? And when you now look at this Mercury-Neptune opposition, what will occur here is Neptune will say, what is it that you want to erode, and what is it that you want to give to new meaning to? Right? There's this polarity, right? Something that is dying, something that is meaningful. And then Mercury comes in and it says, I will give you the Virgo insight to recognize specifically what pattern no longer works for you, and that must then die and be eroded. And the other side says, then begin to align with inspiration and meaning and patterning that is actually correct for you. And right now, each and every one of us has this beautiful and powerful opportunity to be able to be guided to say, this works, this doesn't. Thanks very much for what you did for me at this point in time. I no longer need you, and you surrender it and you allow it to go, and then you realign with a new patterning, with new inspiration. That is it. The Inconjunct Chiron between Mercury is the anxiety would, let me overthink this. I've got to think about this. I've got to think about this, right? Mercury in Virgo. I've just got to keep on thinking about ways that I'm not ready to take the leap of faith. So the inconjunct is, if you're in that space and you're, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, cool. But then that Chiron will reflect back to you the loss of agency. Okay? Aries is about that presence, that's, I'm here. So Chiron in Aries is saying we're healing agency by recognizing that you have the opportunity, you can act in something, but when your mind might get involved, to give you all the excuses in the world to just stay in the same patterning. So the question is, do you want to stay in the old patterning and re-experience the loss of agency and then not take responsibility for what it is that you want to do with your life? Or do you want to take that responsibility and say, this is where I'm not afraid to jump in, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm ready to learn, I'm open to the experience, let's see. That's the attitude, that's the mindset. Then you take that mindset and you apply it to the current challenges that you're experiencing in your life right now. Watch what happens. It's incredibly potent. Okay, So that's my synthesis and analysis of the chart. And I'm going to quickly jump back to the main screen for us, where I can chat to you then. So the summary, okay? We've got past patterns that are present. We have the potential for something new to come into our lives. And this full moon is the encouragement to begin orientating yourself to the new potential, to allow yourself for this new potential to come into form. So it is about allowing yourself to come into this new potential and recognizing where you may stop yourself from coming into new potential. And again, the questions you ask yourself, am I ready to come out into the world? Am I ready to come out into something? And am I ready to embrace the power that is with me? Or am I wanting to still remain in the previous identity of patterns, of coping mechanisms, of trauma responses that stop me from being able to grow into what it is that I want with my life? And that's the Venus coming back to the same degree that it was, right? So you're now wanting to come into a patterning of potential and form. That's the trine between Venus and Chiron, right? The potential, the possibility, the excitement of something. And then the Virgo piece saying, okay, well, let's look at what it is that's stopping you from getting in the way and subject yourself to the unknown. Learn something, gain a skill. Don't be afraid of taking the part of you that is innocent and that doesn't have the belief in yourself, and throw it into life and let life give you the skills that you need. That's the Neptune-Mercury opposition. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. I want to invite you to a free 15-minute call with me. And this is for those who are ready to take the next step in their emotional work, okay? So there is an opportunity that I think where I could help you with something, and I'd like to talk to you about that. I want to get a good sense of where you're at. And if you're ready to be supported and helped to be able to grow into what it is that your best potential, how you can take advantage of what your soul is trying to do, then this is an opportunity that I want to offer you. So there's a link in the description down below. And what you need to do is just fill out a quick little form that gives me a sense of where you're at. Let's have a conversation. And if there's an opportunity to work together, then we can do that. So 3 things: the lecture, the astrology mentorship, for those of you that are serious about your astrology and want to really, really make an impact on the world, and you want to be able to come out of the safe bubble of, well, I'm self-studying, but I really want to do readings, but I'm afraid, right? And then for those that are ready for deep emotional work as well, there's a link down below, okay? All right, my friends, thanks very much for listening to this video. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section, and until the next one, bye-bye.